Well, today the topic is getting comfortable with discomfort. I think that's a bit of a challenge for most of us, isn't it? We want to be we want to be comfortable, we want to be relaxed, we want to feel like everything's going great. But there's some topics of discussion that are particularly uncomfortable, and so we will avoid them. Things like death and dying, or politics or religion. There's a number of topics that can sort of push our buttons a little bit. And what we want to do is find a way to get comfortable with that which we don't know or don't understand, because we notice that with other people as well. We might be uncomfortable with people from a certain country because we don't understand their customs, or we might be uncomfortable with somebody in our own family because we don't like the way they do a certain thing. So what we want to do is, we're all talking, and I hear this all the time in New Thought, peace on earth, a world that works for the highest good of everybody, blah, blah, blah. But then I see a different response often. And that is this place of discomfort becomes a place to avoid. And I want to really be clear that change is the constant, that discomfort is a constant. And what we want to do is embrace being in that place so that we can grow, so that we can awaken, so that we can expand our consciousness and create something truly, truly remarkable in our lives and for future generations. The only way that happens is, first off, I have to get okay with me, because if I'm okay with me, I'm probably going to be okay with you. That's my theory anyway. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention. I remember when my daughter visited a couple of years ago, and she went to the park with her grandson. And while they were at the park, she was sitting chatting with a woman who was there with her children. And they had a great conversation. At the end of the conversation, the woman said, thank you. People don't normally speak to me. And Arlene was a little bit surprised by that. Like, why not? And it's, the hijab was a barrier where some people who don't understand will actually avoid. It's like when a street person is laying on the street, a person who's unhoused is laying out on the street. And I watch people walking by and turning in the opposite direction so that, they don't look at the person, so they won't ask for money or whatever. I think that what we want to do is remember that we are one, that all of us are connected somehow, some way. And the things that make us uncomfortable are things that we can use to grow our consciousness, to move ourselves into a greater place of love, of acceptance, not only of ourselves, but of everyone around us. And if we want to have a world that is in fact peaceful, then we're going to have to get okay with discomfort. When I look around the city that I live in, the city of Toronto, it's very diverse. There's people from all over the world. You can go to any restaurant and eat from somewhere else, learning new things, having an Ethiopian dish or having good Italian food, or, well, nothing's as good as when you're there. But the truth is that we can have all of those experiences right here, but there is a level of comfort that's required. And it means that when you're in a place where everybody is speaking a different language than you, it's being okay with that, knowing that that's their comfort, that in the same situation, we would speak our native tongue first and foremost, because that's what's comfortable for us. It's what we know. It's our familiar place. So getting comfortable with discomfort is the topic today, and it's the challenge that we're all faced with. And it's important that we pay attention to it and find a way to keep moving ourselves forward. Keep having those conversations. Talk to the people you love about death and dying. See how that goes. I did a series a while ago called the F and D word. and it was about death and dying. And I just interviewed people about their perception of death and what that meant or how they felt about it. It was a very interesting series. You can find it on YouTube if you want to take a look at it. There's a number of episodes, but it's that journey that we're on of discovering who we really are, getting comfortable with that, and to know that we're not this body, we are something greater than that. And as we come to that understanding, it becomes easier for us to surrender our life, our expectations, our desires, to surrender all that so that we can be open to learn, to discover, and to be with new ideas, new things. There's so much going on in our world that it would really be beautiful if we could all find a way to be curious about each other rather than judgmental. When you look at the Science of Mind symbol that's in the textbook, you know, the circle with the V, that shows the descent of spirit into form. So everything begins in consciousness. What I think, say, and do with passion and with purpose then goes into that subjective consciousness, and that's the place of creation. That's the place that goes, yes, and just brings it about and comes into form. All of this, of course, can take a little bit of time. Some things happen quickly, some things take a little bit longer. And of course, our attitude, how we feel about it, what we're thinking, those are the things that are going to drive it forward. So Ernest Holmes says, you don't need to give energy to the essence of being. You simply have to let the law work and respond to your vibration. So that's what I was speaking about when you have an idea and it goes into that universal subjective. That's the place where the yes is. That's where things happen. That's the law, and it immediately acts on whatever you give it. So when we're looking at changing our lives or trying to get comfortable with things that are uncomfortable, it starts first with how we think. Yes, how we think. Our thinking allows us to reframe the direction of our thoughts, to reframe what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. It's about reframing the viewpoint that we hold, our perspective, and opening up to a new perspective. You see, when we sit down and have a conversation with somebody who looks different than us, or somebody who speaks another language. You know, my brother went to Germany years ago for work and had to go through tour some plants and stuff. And while he was there, everybody's drinking beer on the job. That's, rather than coffee, they're having beers. And he couldn't speak the language, but it was interesting because he would go to little pubs in these small towns or villages, and he'd go to these little pubs, couldn't speak a word of the language, but he would have the best time because he would just hang with everybody. They'd be laughing and talking. Nobody understood anybody, but there was a joy and a camaraderie that went beyond language, went beyond words. And when I think of music, music is like that. You know, when I was listening to Jr., it's like sitting here grooving and, you know, I believe getting to that place of allowing music to carry us. You see, we don't really need language. One of my favorite types of movies are the Bollywood movies, and I love the music and the dancing. It's so bright and colorful and so full of life. It's so fun. And so those are things that I find really intriguing. But there may have been a time when that would have been uncomfortable. Or watching subtitled movies. You know, the only challenge is you really do have to pay attention when you don't know the language. But when we set aside and allow life to express itself as us, we can flourish in the back and forth of our individual lives, embracing the recognition of oneness. That's the big thing. When we can really begin to see that we're all connected, that all of us have some similar ideas or some same desires, food, shelter, love. That's common in all people. So when we look at that, we allow ourselves to just face a change, be with our feelings, our perspective, and our attention. And change comes when we allow ourselves to just sit in whatever discomfort we find ourselves. Any change can generate discomfort as it takes us out of our familiar place, out of what we know or believe, and even what we've taken for granted, because we do that, don't we? Change challenges us to question our own beliefs. Sometimes change involves, moving away from, our place, our family, the world that we live in, your community of friends with whom you feel safe. When faced with this, uncomfortable situation, allow the peace that permeates everything and of which you are a part to adapt to your new feeling, to the growing recognition of who you are. See, we're on this journey of discovering who we are. Yeah, because sometimes I don't think we're clear about that, about who we really are. And, when we think about the different species on the planet and the different things that occur, we start to realize that we too have a way of being. And it's not the only way, it's just ours. So just as a dolphin is to swim and not fly, our nature must be according to the expression of spirit, which is, as Emerson said, imitation is suicide. Be yourself. Be yourself. There is no one, nor has there ever been anyone, nor will there ever be anyone like you. So allow the divine to express itself in you, with you, and ultimately as you. When we allow that to happen, we create opportunity for change and growth and expansion. There's a temple in Barcelona, Spain, that really is interesting because it's not finished. It is a church that is not finished, and the architects who have worked on the site leave room for the successor to continue the work with a different design, taking advantage of new ideas, new material, new technology, etc., but always with room for updating. Just like the temple, you can keep this space always open for your conscious evolution. So we want to look at life in general. We want to find ways to explore new topics. And of course, in the world today, there's been so much change. Finding a new topic shouldn't be difficult at all, whether it's to do with Indigenous relations, Black Lives Matter, whether it has to do with, child rearing or knitting. There's so many things that we can discover if we will take the time and just allow ourselves to be there. Change is constant, and over time, these changes have been increasingly intense, different, and surprising. They're not better or worse, they're simply different. Keeping ourselves open upward allows us to experience change, being true to our divinity, and as we expand in consciousness and love. So the energy that we produce, the way that we show up in the world, all of that is essential to our having a successful and glorious life. It can only happen when we live from our own authenticity, when we move with change, when we allow change to simply be observed and go, oh, that, okay, and we keep moving forward. When I think about the changes that have occurred in my life over these many years, I know that, who I was in the beginning is who I am. But there was a part of me that resisted that. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there was a resistance that I had to me. Now, I'm sure it was learned, but that's irrelevant. There was that place where I'm going, I don't necessarily like who I am. I don't like how I look. I don't like the way I, interact. So for me, it was years and years and years of sort of fighting the inevitable, fighting me. It was a really hopeless battle. And I remember in the year 2000, when I moved here to Toronto, I went through some journals that I had written. I've been writing journals since I could write. So I went through this old journal from 1988. And I was really excited to read it because I had changed so much that I knew this was going to be epic. So I start reading this journal, and what I discover is I haven't changed at all. I am who I am, who I am. What had changed, however, was my perception, my belief about me. That had changed. I actually had learned to at least like myself. I don't know if I was fully in love with me yet, but for sure to like. And that helped to speed up my journey here to Toronto, to begin the center here in September of 2000, and to create a thriving community, which we did. It was quite wonderful, and it did very well in short order. I left there in 2011 and, started speaking at different churches, and spent a lot of time at Verity Center for Better Living. And what's happened since then is I got a call from head office asking me if I'd be willing to start another center because the first CSL got closed by the new minister. So we're in a place of really waking up to something new and finding it in our hearts, a willingness to take that next step. Even though I don't know how it's going to turn out, I'm willing to take that step. Although the changes seem more intense, because things seem like out of control, they're just different. It's okay, they're just different. Keeping ourselves moving forward, headed in the direction of that authentic self that we can discover, has made it so that I could live more honestly, more in harmony with the universe than trying to resist it. So as we go through this next week, it's important that we look at the changes that are coming and just face them head on. Sit back and realize, well, I'm comfortable right now. This person outside is not, but I'm willing to invite them in. I am willing to bring them into my space. That willingness is a big part of how we create success, how we create harmony, how we create joy in our life and in our world. Taking the time to really sit with ourselves and notice how we're feeling. Our body is speaking to us all the time. And what the body will tell us, we might have a pain in our stomach, for example. And if we just drop our awareness into that space and just ask ourselves, what do I need? What do I need? An idea will come forward. There will be a little moment of illumination, shall we say. And that we can then put to work. That we can put to work. So we're starting to pay attention. Used to be that when there was a pain in the body, the first thing we would do is go to the medicine cabinet and grab pain medication and be sure to knock that out quickly. But what I've come to realize is if I just pay attention to what's going on, if I begin to feel what's happening in my body, I can make that change much quicker. Excuse me. Oh, pardon me. So the changes that we make, some changes come because, the cosmic sledgehammer knocked us off our base and we have to figure out, whoa, get up a little dizzy and start again. But if we learn to listen to our body, to that still small voice, if we learn to listen to that in the moments of great discomfort, we will find our way forward with real ease. It doesn't have to be hard. It can actually be easy. And it can be fun. Yeah, it could be fun too. Discovering a new way of being, discovering how I can show up and how I can be all that I dreamed of being, like how I can live my greatest vision for my life. It doesn't happen because I'm good at avoiding discomfort. It happens because I'm willing to dive in. I'm willing to dive into that place and have that experience. We talk about death and dying, which is a pretty uncomfortable topic for most people. But what's surprising is it's inevitable. We are all going there. No one exempt from that. At least no one that I'm aware of. We're all going to shed this body and return to the source of our existence. All of us. And it doesn't matter how much we fear it, it's still coming. And the thing is that fear is our discomfort with it because we don't know what it is. We don't know what it looks like. We can guess, but that's the best we can do. We can listen to people who've had near-death experiences and go, well, maybe. But we don't know until we go there. We don't know what it will be like. And I think it'll be different for each one of us, depending, again, on our consciousness. Where are we at? Are we at a place of acceptance and awakening and expansion? Are we open at the top? Are we ready to live fully the life that we were given? And you might say, yeah, of course I am. But then when the discomfort shows up, there might be some resistance. At that point, we may turn around and head in the other direction. It's up to us to decide what our journey will be, what it will be like, how it will serve, what is essential to our forward motion, who can we trust, what can we trust, and are we ready? Are we ready to make this big life alteration? Are we ready? So on that note, let us go into a little meditation, a short meditation. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And let's just take a deep breath in. Hold. And exhale. One more deep breath in. Hold. And rescue. As we allow ourselves to just quiet the mind, to sit in the silence, we open up to an opportunity to shine bright and to be who we were created to be. without hesitation or reservation, standing in this great truth. And so it is the silence that speaks to us. It's the silence that moves us. And in the silence, we receive inspiration. So taking a deep breath in, bringing our awareness back to this time and space. And just letting go. All is well, and so it is.